Hi everyone, I'm Spanchen Gengar and today we're starting a brand new season of the Soldier Association or the SDA. Before starting, I want to mention that this is an upload required league, so every single coach has a YouTube channel. Please follow me as well, link in the description below. We have a fixed schedule, so we're gonna upload a new video every single Saturday. Some of the important rules for the league are that Fluttermane we ride on our band, Shuttle and Last Respects are allowed, but Revival Blessing is banned. As for the draft, we are 16 coaches split into 2 divisions just for the draft. Each division has their own pool, and at the end of the draft we all play together in a single division. This is going to make the league so much more offensive because there are going to be 2 Dragapults, 2 Chiyus, basically 2 of everything. As for the draft rules, we have 110 points to draft between 9 and 11 Pokémons, 25 points to pick up to 3 Terra Captains from our team, and these Terra Captains can Terra into any single type. But as a restriction, Pokemon between 14 and 7 points cannot be Terra Captains. Now, going to the draft, we got very lucky and ended up being our first spot in the draft. We could pick whatever Pokemon we wanted. So for our first pick, I wanted something fast and strong. So I was between Dragapult and Chien-Pao, and I went ahead and just picked Chien-Pao. This Pokemon is just busted. With its ability, there aren't many Pokemon that can switch into this. And on top of that, its speed of 135 makes it one of the fastest Pokemon in the format. Basically, the only Pokemon that's faster than this is Dragapult and Iron Bundle. This forces an opponent to bring a lot of Scarfers, but Chien-Pao can actually handle that too because it gets priority in Ice Shard and Sucker Punch. This Pokemon is just so hard to deal against, and it just forces a lot of prep. So for my second pick, I wanted a strong ground type. But Iron Traps and Great types were already gone, so I went ahead and picked the next ground type that was free, and I had picked Garchomp. Garchomp is a very strong offensive Pokemon with Dragon and Ground, but it's also a good defensive Pokemon because it has a good HP. With 102 speed, it also makes it faster than Chiyu, something I do have to worry about, since there are 2 Chiyus in this league. On top of that, it also gets Stealth Rock and Spikes, which is always good to have. Now if you look at my team, both Garchomp and Chien-Pao struggle against Fairy. So for my third pick, I grabbed Gholdengo. Gholdengo is an amazing Fairy killer, and because it's Ghost type, it's an amazing Rapid Spin blocker. Not only that, but because of its typing and its ability good as Gold, plus the fact that it gets Recover, it lasts very long in battles. It is also a good Scarfer because of its 133 special attack. Now, since I was the first in the draft pool, it means that every time I pick, I can pick 2 Pokemons, but after that I have to wait 2 entire rounds. So as I was waiting for my turn again, I was thinking to draft Arcanine, because Arcanine has 12 points, and it can Terra. So I really wanted Terra Arcanine, but sadly it got sniped right before us. So I had to look for another fire type, and I realized that so far we don't have a ground resist. So I went ahead and picked Rotom Heat. Rotom Heat provides me with a good fire type defensively, and has a momentum Volt Switch, can burn, can paralyze. Now I know it's not as good as previous generation because it lost Defog, it lost Pain Split, it lost Toxic, but I think it's still a very good defensive Pokemon, and it actually can be pretty solid offensively as well because it gets Nasty Plot. With the Choice Scarf, I can trick the Choice Scarf if I don't want to be Choice Scarf locked anymore. So I really think it's a good Pokemon to have. Now, I already have 4 Pokemons, but so far I have no hazard removal. So I looked at what Rapid Spinners were left, and most of them were already gone. So I have an idea. What if instead of trying to remove hazard, I just go ahead and bounce them back at them? So for my 5th pick, I went ahead and picked Hatterene. With Magic Bounce, the opponent might not even bring hazards because of fearing it to be bounced back. Or I can just avoid them by switching Hatterene and just bouncing them back. Hatterene is also a strong Fairy type with Calm Mind and Trick Room, so it could just sweep entire teams by itself. Now if you look at my team, so far I don't have a single water resist. and I actually wanted at least one Intimidate Pokemon in my team. So since I couldn't get Arcanine, I went ahead and picked Tauros Aqua. Now Tauros Aqua has a decent speed of 100. With a 110 attack, it can actually be a very offensive Pokemon with Bandit or Scarf. But because it has Intimidate and 105 defense, it can also tank hits from the physical side very well. So all around, this is a good check for a physical defensive or physical offensive Pokemon. So my next pick might be a mistake, because it actually doesn't add anything for my team. But I wanted to pick it now. So I grabbed Jolteon, with having Terra Jolteon in mind. Jolteon got an amazing buff this generation, because it finally learns Calm Mind. And with Calm Mind, it has the power of a choice specs, but it's able to move different moves. Now I know it still struggles against ground types, because it doesn't have coverage for that. But here's what Terra comes into play. It can Terra into a grass type, a water type, an ice type, and just finally kill those ground types that Jolteon always struggled against. Now because of its 130 speed, it can actually be a very good threat just for the cost of 6 points. Now I had to wait again 2 rounds, and I was the first one to pick round 8. So I was picking the last round 7 and the first of round 8. And then after my pick, entire round 8, entire round 9 was gonna go. Since teams could have up to 9 Pokemons, I was sure that in these 2 rounds, people were gonna start picking Pokemons between 1 or 2 points. So I just went ahead and grabbed the best 2-pointer, that for me is Knucklesack. Knucklesack is pretty much a cheap Garganacl. It has the same moveset, and with an Eviolite, it's almost the same bulk. It gets Recover, it gets Salt Cure, it gets Iron Defense, it gets Body Press. It's something you cannot ignore, and it only costs 2 points. It's super good to have, and I just picked it now because I didn't want it to get sniped. And I also noticed that my only ground resist was actually only the Rotom, so I was like, I have to pick a flying type, but I don't have a ghost resist other than the Chiempao on the Knucklesack. So with those things in mind, I went ahead and picked Bravery. Now I know I could have picked Staraptor because it was still available, but Bravery was a little cheaper, and it gets Roost and Defog, something that Staraptor does not get. I don't know why, but it doesn't get Defog or Roost. So with Bravery, I finally have a Pokemon that can get rid of hazards with Defog. Now this was my pick for round 8. I had to wait entire round 8, entire round 9. A lot of Pokemon were already done. Most of them had very few points left, but I still had 50 points, 15 points left. So I was like, I could pick a strong Pokemon now, or I could just pick 2 Pokemons to cover different holes in my teams. So I realized my only hazard setter was the Garchomp. And the Knucklesack, but I don't know. I'm not gonna bring Knucklesack every single week to set up rocks. So I definitely want to have at least one Pokemon with Toxic Spikes. And since I didn't have a grounded poison type, the opponent could always set up Toxic Spike against me since I only have Defog Bravery. So I went ahead and picked Quillfish. Quillfish is basically just there to set up hazards and to remove Toxic Spikes. It's not gonna come every single week, but it gets spikes, Toxic Spikes, and with Intimidate, it can actually be an annoying Pokemon to deal with, because you can pair a Rocky Helmet and just chip away health from the opponent. So yeah, it's just a niche, but I did want to have it. And my last pick, I had 8 points left. Now, I was kind of weak to ground, and I usually don't draft grass types. And even if I do, I don't use them anyways. but I wanted to give this Pokemon a try. It's not good offensively by any means, and while defensively it has good utility moves, its ability makes it so much worse. I guess you can already know what I'm talking about, but for my last pick, I went ahead to pick Toadscruel. I don't know why Game Freak decided to give this Pokemon this trash ability. It could have been such a good Pokemon, because it has 100 base speed, but because of the ability, it can't really use that speed for anything. Just for attacking, but its best attacking stat is special attack with 80, which is quite bad. I still drafted it because it has Rapid Spin, Knockoff, Spore, it got Spikes, Toxic Spikes, so it's just there in case I don't want to use Quillfish or I want to have at least one Rapid Spinner in my team. But I'm probably never gonna use it. It had 8 points, I had 8 points, so might as well just try it. First time using it, let's see what it can do. Now before ending the video, I still didn't talk about what my Terra Captains are gonna be. Now I already talked about Jolteon. I'm gonna use Jolteon as one of the Terra Captains, but I had 25 points and I wanted to make it work. Use as many points possible for my Terra Captains. So I picked 3. My first Terra Captain is gonna be Hatterene. Basically, making Hatterene Terra could mean I could power up his Fairy type moves, because the best move is Dazzling Gleam, which is not as strong as Moonblast. But with Terra type Fairy, I can make Dazzling Gleam so much stronger, or even I could make Drain Kiss even stronger, because it's actually a good move with the Terra Fairy. I can actually also Terra it into another type defensively, just to be able to switch in against another mon. Use of this ability Magic Bounce. But especially the Terra was just for the Terra Fairy. For my second type, now you already know I have Jolteon, so with Jolteon and Hatterene I had already 15 points. So my only fit was a Tauros for the Terra Captain. Basically, giving Tauros a Terra Captain is either making close combat or Wave Crush stronger by Terraing into water or fighting. So I can go Choice Scarf and just Terra Water Wave Crush, or Terra Fighting close combat, make it even stronger offensively. Or I could Terra into something more defensively, like Fairy for example, and just intimidate the Dragon types. Especially those Dragon types that like Dragon Dance, like Salamence and Dragonite. So yeah, it could be a special, it could be defensively or offensively, both work. And the last one is definitely the Jolteon. I already talked about it, but the thing is, Jolteon as alone is decent, but with the Terra it makes Jolteon so much more of a threat. So this is gonna be our team for this season of the SDA. What do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Do you like it? Do you think something doesn't fit on our team? Until then, see you next time.